Today I'm going to be working on my new wreath for my front door, and before we get started I want to go over the supply list of just recommendations or things that you might want to get to make this wreath. Now obviously the first thing you're going to need is an assortment of silk flowers or any kind of foliage that you might want for your wreath. Now I have a lot here because I'm going to be also making a swag that matches to go up there. I'm going to retire that swag that I've had for years, and I want to put one that's brighter colors and that matches my wreath. So I have enough silk flowers here to do 2 projects. I'm also going to be incorporating these little burlap birds. I think they're absolutely adorable. I've got 2 of them. I haven't decided if I'm going to use both on the wreath or one on the wreath and one on the swag. I've also got some burlap ribbon for making a bow. Then you're going to need some floral tape and some floral wire. And I also want to mention that I got almost all of this stuff at the Dollar Tree. A few items I got at Walmart, but mostly I got all of them at the Dollar Tree. The 2 little burlap birds I got at Walmart. And let's see, oh, and then this greenery I got at Walmart, and oh, and then these flowers I got at Joann Fabrics. But everything else I got at the Dollar Tree. Also, you're going to need some tools. You're going to need a hot glue gun, and then of course I've got some extra glue sticks. You're going to need some wire cutters. Now this little tool set is my husband's, but I use it a lot for my crafting. You're going to need some wire cutters and some needle nose pliers. And then I've also got my kitchen shears that I can use to cut stems of flowers or whatever I need to use it for. You're going to need some heavy-duty scissors that you don't mind cutting wire with. And and then you're going to need a metal frame. So let's get started. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to cut all of these branches of the greenery off of the main stem. So let me get the camera put on the tripod and we'll get started. Okay, so first of all, this is held together with a twist tie, so I'm going to take that off, throw that away. I've got a trash can right here next to me, and then there's all these different branches that are on the main stem. So I'm going to take these metal or these wire cutters and I'm going to start cutting these off. I think I might leave a couple of the entire twigs intact because I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to be doing this wreath. We'll be learning how to do this together as we go along. So I think I'll start out with leaving, let's see, we'll leave, see, this has 1 and then it has 2 on one stem, if you can see that. I'll leave a couple of them with the 2 on one just to see how things go, and I can always cut them off or cut them apart at a later time. This is kind of hard for the metal clippers. Yeah, these wire cutters are kind of small, but there, I did it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get all of this greenery cut apart, and when I've got that done and I've kind of figured out how I'm going to put them on my ring, I'll be back to show you how to do that. Okay, so it took me a bit to figure out what I'm doing here. It's not as easy to wire on to this thin metal as I thought it was going to be. This is very thin wire, so it's very bendable, but I was having a hard time tightening it down hard enough so that it wouldn't move. So I found if you fasten it on this cross section right here, if you can see, There's a little cross section right there. You put this on here, and then you twist the wire around the cross section, and then around the stem of the greenery, and then you tighten it down as hard as you can, and then just keep twisting the wire up, and then take the wire and wrap it around and around and around that cross piece. I don't know if you're actually able to see what I'm doing, but basically you just have to figure out how to attach this first row of greenery the easiest for you. I tried to use hot glue, but hot glue just does not fasten to slippery objects very well. So I went back to the floral wire. And so that fastened it pretty good. And I figured out that I'm going to be using 8 of these sections to go around and put my first layer of greenery. So I'm going to go ahead and get the first layer on here, and then when I figure out what I'm going to be doing next, I'll be back. So I have them all wired on here, and then for an extra measure of support and for positioning things the way I want to, and to make sure that they won't come loose, I've taken the leaf from behind, the other leaf, put a little bit of hot glue right on the back, like so, and then securing it to the stem of the leaf in front of it. And it kind of, ouch, that's hot. It glues to the metal and to the stem in front of it. And then you just kind of go around and do the same thing for all of these. It's just a little added measure of security to make sure things are going where I want it to go. I've never done a wreath with this metal frame before. I've always used like a natural fiber wreath or a styrofoam form, but I was trying to just get most of my material from the dollar store, Dollar Tree, and they didn't have any styrofoam forms, at least not ones that were big enough. So I thought I would give it a shot doing it with the metal form. And of course, if I had experience using these metal forms more, I wouldn't be having this trouble. But I think I figured out my game plan here. So there we go. We've got all of the greenery on here to start with, and now I have to start layering the flowers. And I've got all these bright flowers that I'm going to be using, the orange, the yellow, and the white, plus the berries, I guess they're called, like a gold toned and a white toned berry. And then I've got these green cattails. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing with the flowers. I'm going to start cutting them off the stem, off the main stem with my wire cutters. And once I get all of these cut off of here and kind of have a game plan on what I'm going to do or how I'm going to arrange them on the wreath, I'll be back. So I'm starting out with the white flowers. And I've decided I'm going to kind of leave this space down here a little bit less full, because that's where I'm going to make the bow at the bottom. And I've also decided that I'm going to move the leaf part of the flower closer up to the petal, and then cut off about 2 inches off the bottom of each stem, just so there's less bulk to worry about. these stems are not horribly easy to get. And then I'm just kind of sticking them in where I want them to be on here. And I'm putting the stems obviously through the wire to the back. And I'm going to hot glue the flower to the leaf in front of it. And you know, it doesn't take a lot of hot glue because these are silk flowers and they don't weigh very much. I have 6 white flowers, so I'm going to arrange them around the frame. And of course you have to listen to my dogs bark because that's what they do. And if you hear the clickety-clack of nail claws, that's Miss Lucy. We're letting her out of her confinement for a few hours a day so she can hopefully build up some strength in her legs. She's still very wobbly, but so, and then as I go around and as I glue, I might decide to throw in a piece of wire here and there just to secure it. And as I build layers onto this frame, I can use less wire and more just hot glue. But I just have to get these secured on here. If I can get it around both the wire and the stem, that would be good. I just have to get the base layer really secure. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep working on getting the white flower layer on. And when I have them on, I'll be back and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so now I've got all the white flowers on there. And so now I'm going to be starting with the orange. And I even trimmed the stems even shorter on these orange ones. And I'm going to just go around and do the same thing again with the orange flowers. Just going all the way, working myself all the way around the wreath. When I get those on, I'll be back. I'm just using, I think I'm going to be sticking mostly with the hot glue now. I'm going to push the leaves all the way up to the flowers and put hot glue on the flowers and just tuck them in, and then the hot glue will catch. It will catch on the wire and it'll catch on the leaves and things below it. So I'll go ahead and get this done and then I'll be back. Okay, so the orange flowers are on and I'm really starting to like the way this is coming together. It still needs a lot more work. So I'm going to go ahead and continue now with my yellow ones. Scoot the leaves all the way up to the top and cut the stem off short and hot glue it on the wreath. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done and then we'll be back. I use a liberal amount of glue and just kind of place it in there, and the glue catches on. And as I suspected, the more I get on flowers I get on here, the easier it is to glue them on. Okay, we'll be back. So the next thing I've done is I've taken these little berry things and I've done the same thing that I've done with the other flowers. Cut them off, scooted the leaf up as far as it would go and cut the stem really short, and I'm just using this as filler. Whenever I see a spot on the wreath that is kind of empty. So, and I've gotten a few glued on here already. as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and finish gluing these berries on, and then I'll show you what it looks like. At this point, I'm going to make the bow that's going to be down here and put it on, because then that way I can fill in around the bow and make it nice and full. And the way to make a bow with wired ribbon is you figure out how long you want your tail to be, and then you make it about 3 inches longer than how long you want the tail to be. So you twist the ribbon and make a small loop, and that'll be like the center of the bow. And then you take your ribbon and you fold it under till it's the size of the loop that you want, and then you give it a twist, and then you make the other side about the same size as the other ribbon, and you gotta keep all these layers held in your hand, and you give it another twist, and then you make another loop. I've got to get all this ribbon off the spool, make it easier here. And then you give it a twist in the back, and you make this would be your 4th loop. Fold it under, give it a twist, fold it under, give it a twist. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do one more loop. Fold it under and give it a twist. So now I've got this whole mass of ribbon that needs to be secured. So you take a piece of floral wire. Olivia's going to cut me a piece off real quick. Oh, that's pretty good. And you thread it through all of this, the center of all of these loops, and you pull it around to the back, and you just give it a twist to secure it all. And I'm going to leave these tails of the wire because that's probably how I'm going to affix it to my frame. So then you just take your ribbon and you just fluff the bows out, and you twist them around to how you want it to look so that it's nice and full. So I'm going to fiddle with this a bit until I get it just how I want it, and then I'll show you how I attach it to the frame. Okay, so now I've got the bow on here situated, and I made my tails. I made them kind of long because I can always cut more off later, and I probably will. And I went ahead and just did the like forked edging on the bottom. So I've got this much done so far. So now I'm just going to continue using the materials that I have, like these foxtails and the birds, to continue to fill in this wreath even more. And somehow I want to incorporate a couple of these daisies in here as well. So let me go ahead and get the foxtails cut free from the stems, and I'll figure out how I want to get those on here, and I'll be back. So I fiddled around with the cattail idea for a while, and I just couldn't seem to make it incorporate into this wreath or to look right. So I think I'm going to save the cattails and use those in the swag. I don't have to have every element in the wreath that I have in the swag. It just, I kind of wanted them to coordinate some. So what I ended up doing is I had more of these flowers that I was going to use for the swag, but I'm not going to need all of these for that. So I went ahead and took off more. I took some more of those flowers off of that bunch, and I'm going to put these into the wreath because I'm really liking the way my wreath looks. It's just not full enough. So I think if I took 3 orange, 3 white, and 3 yellow, and if I use those to fill in more of these empty spaces, I think that I will like this wreath much better, and it will be almost done, I think. And then all I will really need to have to add are 1 or 2 of the birds. So let me go ahead and finish trimming these flowers down and getting them glued onto the wreath, and then I will make my decisions as I go on how I like it and what I want to do next. So we will be back. Okay, so here's the finished product. The lighting is really terrible in here, so I'll try to get a better picture of it. What we ended up doing is hanging the wreath on the door, and I'm actually going to put a hanger on it so that it hangs down lower on the door. And then we just took the rest of the flowers and filled it in so that it looked completely full. And we ended up using all of these dahlia flowers. So I'm going to have to make a trip back to the Dollar Tree and get more before I can do the matching swag. But I think it turned out really nice, and we ended up just using 1 bird, and we'll use the other bird on the swag, and that's going to be a completely separate video. And then I ended up cutting the tails on the wreath, or on the bow, I mean, a little bit shorter. So let me get some better lighting, and I'll take some still photos of the wreath. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, folks. It was kind of an adventure, me trying to get this wreath put together. And if I did it more often, I think I would get pretty good at it. But it took me a long time. It took me several hours to get this wreath put together today. But I am happy with the way it turned out. And keep watching for the swag video. I will be doing that at a later date. And like I said, I'm going to have to go to the Dollar Tree and get some more flowers before I can do that project. So thanks a lot for watching, friends, and we will talk to you later. Bye.